Hello everyone, DisturbedShadow here again, bringing you another new album review. Well, not a new one. This is an old album, an album that came out 10 years ago. Well, a little more than 10 years ago, because as you know, I've been behind on these. So I'm going to do another one that came out on June 29th, 2004, which is the same date as the previous album I reviewed, which was Atreyu's The Curse. So now we're talking about post-grunge / alternative metal band Breaking Benjamin's second album entitled We Are Not Alone, which is one of my personal favorite albums from this band. So it's actually a really good time to talk about this because they just recently announced that they're coming back now that all their legal issues are sorted out and a new lineup has been revealed. So it's a good time to talk about Breaking Benjamin. So let's take a look and see why this album is so good. So there's a lot of really good tracks I want to talk about on this album, so I'm just going to run through all of them real quickly because there's little bits and pieces in every song that I like, so we'll just go ahead and talk about all of them. So let's talk about the first three tracks first, which are three of the most solid Breaking Benjamin songs in their entire discography. So let's talk about the opener entitled So Cold, which starts off kind of slow with just the bass and some clean guitar, and then it sort of builds up into this big heavy riff with all this cool stuff happening, and the lead playing is interesting on this one. It's just a great way to slowly build up into what this album becomes. So then it pulls back again to a more slowed down melodic chorus, and then, verse, and then in the chorus it picks up speed again, which is cool back and forth they do in this song. And then there's a little bit of a guitar solo in the middle, which is not something they do all that often, and it's one of the only solos on this album, so it makes the song a little bit more unique in comparison to the other tracks on the album. But I really like this song, and it's a really, really solid opener. Next track I want to talk about is track number 2, entitled Simple Design, which was actually the first track from this band that I heard. I just heard it on Pandora back when I used to listen to that to find new music. But it really pulled me into this band. It's a really, really catchy song, and it hooked me on them instantly, almost. And the cool thing about this is that the bass is actually turned up really nice and loud on this one. You can actually hear it doing some interesting things, and it's just a really powerful bass on this song, which I like to hear. But anyway, this song really captures what Breaking Benjamin is. Heavy, but catchy and melodic at the same time. Because it comes in with this heavy, heavy riff, and then in the chorus it picks up with this big, catchy, melodic hook that just pulls you right into this band, and it pulls you into the album itself, if the first track didn't already do that for you. But I just absolutely love this song. And then in the bridge, they bring in some acoustic guitars to mix it up a little bit, so it has a nice, really nice flow to it, the way this song comes together, and it is very representative of what Breaking Benjamin actually is. And next track I want to talk about is my personal favorite Breaking Benjamin song, entitled Follow, which is just an amazing song. It has this really fast, catchy riff right in the beginning that just pulls you right into it, and then it's just a very melodic song, and then the chorus is just impossibly catchy. It's just amazing, and it just gets stuck in my head over and over and over again. And that's a song from them that I will always come back to because it is a really, really good song. Well, now let's talk about the song Firefly, which is track number 4, which has some cool, clean guitar effects on it in the verse, and then it gets heavier again in the chorus. And this is another one where the bass sort of shines, especially in the verses when the guitars sort of pull back a little bit, so it can actually focus on the bass. So it has a nice dynamic to it. And then in the end, when they do the final chorus, there's a lot of cool there's a lot of cool sounding lead playing on it, which mixes it up a little bit. So this is another really solid song, and it is definitely worth checking out. Next song I want to talk about is track number 6, which is entitled Forget It, which is a more slower song in it. They use mostly acoustic guitars, and then the bass is a little more prevalent because it's pulled back with the acoustic guitars. And there's a lot of layered, clean guitars, and then there's a bunch of synths and stuff in the background to make it a little bit different than other songs on the album. It's one of the more ballady-like songs ever. And Ben, the lead vocalist's voice really shines on the song, and it shows his vocal range, where he does a more calm and quiet, sort of deep singing, and then he does more sing-songy melodic stuff with a higher range, and it has a nice dynamic to it on that one, and his vocals are really good on the song, so that is one of the songs to definitely check out. Then the next song is one of the singles on the album, track number 7, Sooner or Later, which is another really good song, which is really representative of the other side of Breaking Benjamin, where they bring in a lot of different sound layers. Like they have the clean guitars, and then they have the more distorted guitars, plus they have in the background they have an acoustic guitar layered in the background to keep the rhythm, which is sort of interesting thing, and it's something they did a lot on their earlier album, on their first album, and then it comes back here on this song, but they don't do it so much on their later albums. But it's a nice, interesting thing to have that acoustic guitar in the background behind the distorted guitars, which gives it an interesting feel. And what I like about the song is that, again, has another catchy chorus that pulls you into the music, which is something that Ben is very good about when he's writing lyrics and how he actually sings those lyrics, which really just pulls you in, and it's something I really like about this album in general. Next song I want to talk about is track number 8, Breakdown. And I like about the song is it comes in with a piano intro, and then again this is another track where the bass is really prevalent, and you can hear it throughout the whole song. It's doing some interesting stuff, and you can just hear it being slapped and stuff like that, where it's cool. It's something different than the rest of the songs, where the bass is kind of more pulled back and going along with what the guitars are doing, and you don't really hear it as much. So it's nice that they have some songs where the bass actually gets to shine through. Last track or 2 more tracks actually. Track number 10, Believe, which is the heaviest number on this album, where the guitars are just heavier. It's more alternative metal-y, as opposed to a lot of the stuff is more in the post-grunge territory. But like I said, they're kind of right on the line of post-grunge and alternative metal, and this song is really representative of that, where it has big, chugging, heavy guitar riffs and a lot more screaming vocals, which Ben is also really good at doing. Even though he's better with the cleans, he does a good job, again, with the scream vocals, even though they're not that common. But on this song, they work really well, and the way he alternates between them and the cleans and the chorus has a nice dynamic to it. And then the last track I want to talk about is the closer, which is track number 11, Rain, which is just an acoustic ballad, and it's really cool. It's calm. It's cool. It's very, very, very slowed down. And it's just acoustic guitars, and then there's some strings in the background, which is something they don't do as much on this album, where they actually bring in other instruments besides the simple rock band formula that they usually use. And what I like about this song is that the vocals really shine on this album, and it shows that while Ben can do the fast, big melodic anthems and the screaming, he can also do like a ballad type song where he's more quiet and stuff like that. And it comes together as a really nice song, and it's a good way to end the album. And you would expect something more like a big, heavy number to end the album, but they choose to go with a ballad, and it works very, very well on this album. So it's a good way to close it up. So those are some of the highlights of the album. So let's go now and talk about what the actual band members are actually doing on their own. So first I want to talk about Ben and Inerrant on guitars. There's a lot of cool guitar stuff happening on this album. It's not like crazy, like shredding and stuff like that like you'd see in other types of metal and rock, but it's sort of pulled back, but it's in simplistic, but at the same time it's really, really heavy and catchy at times when they do the more melodic stuff. And the guitar tone is really, really crunchy, which is nice to hear on this album. But then there's also the more melodic sections, like I keep mentioning, like in So Cold or Follow or Simple Design, where the guitars take a more melodic approach. And then, of course, there's the rhythm playing with all the interesting riffs and stuff that they do throughout the whole thing. There's just a very, very focused on rhythm playing as opposed to lead playing. But songs like Believe and Break My Fall and Follow have these, and Super Simple Design as well, have these really catchy rhythm riffs that pull you into the song, which work really well. Now let's talk about Mark on bass. Again, like I mentioned, there's a lot of parts where he's just following along with the guitars and he's just in the background. But there are those few songs where he stands out and does some interesting stuff, like on Simple Design and Firefly and Away and Breakdown, where the bass really shines and is one of the more better parts of those songs, where the bass is doing something different and it's turned up loud so you can actually hear that it's diverting from what the guitars are doing. And a lot of those times where they'll have the clean guitars going and then the bass will be taking the lead there in those particular parts where the guitars aren't getting in the way of the bass actually being heard from you. One of the problems I had with this is that without headphones, some of the songs it's hard to hear the bass, but when I listen to it with headphones, I could hear the bass most of the time. So that's good that most of the time you can hear the bass because most of the time you're going to be listening with headphones anyway. And let's now talk about Jeremy on drums. The drums are very simplistic on this album, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because it works really well with the type of music that Breaking Benjamin makes, where it's more focused on the vocals and on a bit more on the guitar than the actual drums. But the drums do work very well for what they are, so Jeremy, again, does a good job. He doesn't do anything too crazy, but like I said, it works really well for what this band is doing. Now, finally, let's talk about Ben on vocals. Wow, he is amazing on vocals. He is definitely the highlight of the album. The way he does vocals, he has this wide range where he can do sort of more kind of haunting, higher range notes, and then he'll do like a lower range stuff. And he alternates between those, and again, he brings in some screams and stuff like that to keep it varied. But he just has a really, really good singing voice, and the way he writes songs, like the way he sings and stuff, really just pulls you into the music, and it's really catchy on songs like So Cold, Simple Design, and Follow, where those big choruses just pull you into the music, and they just make you want to sing along with them. So he does an amazing job, and he's definitely the highlight of the band. So, as I mentioned before, they have a new lineup, completely new lineup with the exception of Ben, but because he is the focal point of the band, I think they're going to do a good job. So I'm looking forward to see what they do next. So that's my review for We Are Not Alone, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another review of an album that came out 10 years ago.